to Saturday Night Live. I'm Doug Wilkerson. We have a group with us here on Zoom. We have Paul's on with us Zoom, and he's also here in the room with me. And so I want to make sure that this is turned off. That should be good. And so we just want to welcome you. I could stand a little breathing exercise, so let's all put our feet flat on the floor if possible, and just breathe in through your nose, and we're going to breathe in twice and exhale once, of course. So am I doing all right, or do we have an echo? We doing okay? I got a little bit of an echo, Paul.
I can't make it anyway.
Okay. Well, try it now because you weren't muted. I muted you. Okay, there we are. We don't echo. We're good now. So let's breathe in once, breathe in twice, and then exhale through our mouth. Kind of push that air out. Breathe in again once. Breathe in again twice. And exhale through our mouth. One more time through our nose. One more time. And exhale through our mouth. Well, thanks for being here with us. And I'm going to pass over to Paul. I see I've got an error message over on my thing, so I'm wondering if how we're doing. And but anyway, I'll let you take it from here, Paul. I'm going to mute myself and then pick you up. How about that?
Okay. Well, good evening and welcome to Saturday Night Live. We're glad you're here with us. I wish we could all be together like we used to be. I'm really missing that. Tonight we got some pretty good stuff we're going to talk about, and we're here to help. We love you. And one thing I love about Saturday Night Live is when we say we love you, we really mean it. I know we're not coming down the steps into the facility like we used to, but one of the things I always said was when you come down there, there's no judgment, and most everybody by the time they get here has already been beat up enough. They don't need to be judged. They need to be loved. And that's what I've learned to do. And that's what we do as a group is invite you in, love you, and let you know that we care, let you know that our God cares, and there is hope for your life. And tonight we're going to share some of that hope with you. And pay attention. If you need to get a hold of somebody, call us. We're here not just to talk, but to listen and hopefully be able to give you tools to work and change your life and be clean and be happy. So tonight we're going to start out with reading the steps, and Lisa's going to read the steps for us. Lisa, come on down.
Hello, everyone. So I don't know if you can see me. You won't see me, but hopefully you can see my screen. So I put the 12 steps up there so everybody could read along as I was reading. And so we'll start off with step 1. We admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. We came to believe that step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. Step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, We were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Step 7, we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate you taking care of that tonight. Not sure what was going on with Macy. We're used to seeing her, or Kate. I'm glad you're here and glad you're here to help us out. Angie was going to do the step, and she's had some sort of an event, so she's not with us tonight. Tonight, Doug is going to do the step for us. Doug, come on down.
Okay, there I am. All right. Hopefully we're online. Looks like we're in some places, but I had some errors and anyway, craziness on with technology. But I'm going to touch the steps, and Lisa, I'm sorry I didn't. I was away from the deal, and I figured out that I had to take Paul off the spotlight to be able because I couldn't find the spotlight for you. Anyway, we got you on there towards the end. So
It's all good.
I'm still learning. So, and can you hear me all right? Do I need to turn up I turned down my sound a while ago. Zach, can you hear me all right? Okay, all right. I'm gonna turn that up just a little bit more. All right. So here we are, step number 2. This is the second month, and there's 12 steps, there's 12 months, in case you didn't know that. See, I'm teaching you neat stuff already. And so we do the number of the step that's with the number of the month. So this is February, step 2, and second month, step 2. So that step is we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And we all need some sanity, right? Have we had enough of insanity? So here we are. We're looking for some sanity. Now, our topic tonight that actually Angie selected, and I'm sorry that she's not here. She had an emergency that she is called to Springfield at about 6 o'clock. So she selected the internal bondage out of Mark 5, verses 1 through 13, out of our Life Recovery Bible. This is an extra big one because someone from the group gave it to me several years ago. It's page 1257 in that Bible. And it talks about how it tells us that when we are under the influence of our addiction, and our addiction can be anything from drugs, alcohol, it can be pornography, it can be cutting, it can be gambling, it can be anger, it can be it can be anything, okay, that we are addicted to try to escape our reality of life, that maybe that trying to numb our pain or trauma that we've had. And so we're addicted to avoiding pain. We're addicted to that, and that's a human nature. That's a survival mechanism. But the fact of it is, sometimes we get trapped in that coping mechanism, and we fail because oftentimes we seek something that works, but we don't go ahead. We get comfortable with that, and that's some of the things we're going to be talking about tonight. I'm going to be talking about later on about the 7 signs of our self-sabotage. And so let's get back into the literature. And it says that the influence of addiction, it may feel like it's holds us with a supernatural force. All right. We may give up on life, throwing ourselves into a self-destructive behavior with wild abandon. People also may give up on us, like maybe a divorcing us from life. They want to treat us like we're already dead. Anybody experienced any of that? And whether it's marital or relationship or family, or it could be church, it could be groups, it could be all kinds of things. It's, we get to a place that we feel like we've been shut out. And whether our insanity, because we're insane, that's why they're treating us that way, is self-induced or maybe more of a sinister origin. There is a power available to restore us to sanity and to wholeness. And that's what step 2 is talking about here. And I want to read step 2 again. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. Now, the scripture reference that went along here was Jesus talked to a man that was acting insane. Okay, this man was running through the graveyard, and he was not. He was doing that. He was going through the graveyard at night, howling and screaming. Nothing could restrain him. Nothing could hold him. They'd even shackle him and chain him. He'd break the chains. He'd break the shackles. And so he couldn't be subdued, because he couldn't be subdued from the outside because he was so tormented on the inside. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Just think about it. And so he would go through at night, howling and cutting himself with sharp stones, hurting himself. And Jesus, out of Mark 5, verse 3 and 5, Mark 5, verse 3 through 5, Jesus went up into this graveyard and he assessed the situation. He dealt with the forces of darkness. And that force of darkness was inside him: his pain, his hurt, his misery, his torment. Okay, he was internally tortured, and dealt with that affliction and restored this man to sanity. Now, as the story goes, Jesus spoke to him, and the man was tormented with demons. He said his name was Legion, which was a legion in the Roman army. Actually, was between 2,000 and 5,000 men in a legion, and there's different ones that say different numbers, but a lot. I don't know how many he had, but this evil that was in this man, wanted to be sent into these swine that was there, and Jesus allowed them to go into that because they were leaving the man, and there was 2,000 swine, and the 2,000 swine couldn't handle it, so they ran themselves over a cliff. And there's a lot of theological information that kind of goes along with that, but we're not going to go into that tonight. The idea here is we have this man was internally tormented, and nothing could restrain him. I remember a man that we worked with several years ago here at Saturday Night Live. He was big, he was pretty strong, but at the time that I remember him standing here in Saturday Night Live, his eyes was pushing out. He was even though he had started into recovery, he still had some of that. He wasn't totally restored yet, but he was better than he was. And that was the time that I was going to the Ozark Center every Saturday before our Saturday night meeting, and working with the folks for a couple of hours. And he met me there, and he came to Saturday Night Live sometime after he got out of rehab. And he told a story that he would get so worked up that he would run down the street in his underwear, and that he had literally busted in doors. He indicated like he had a supernatural strength to be able to do that. And I've heard many different stories, particularly that are related to meth, that can happen, did happen, has happened. So our point here is we may go too far in our life by breaking off all the restraints in our life. We try to set ourselves free, and we struggle to be free of the controls in society and our loved ones. You know, we push them back, and because we think a lot of this is the problem, and we go into our addiction because we're trying to find something to help us on the inside, and we figure everything else is the problem. So we figure everything on the outside is a problem, and if I can just be okay on the inside. The trouble is we push everything out, and the real bondage is not what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside, and what we're doing to ourselves, and what we're feeding ourselves mentally and emotionally. Hope this is not too much. But when we get into recovery, we have to then begin to reconnect with those sources on the outside, our family and loved ones, and some healthy friends. And also oftentimes we disconnect from God, and we have to have that reconnection, that spiritual connection, to reestablish that. And if we do that, all hope, particularly when all hope seems lost, like this man running in the burial caves, when all hope seems lost, but there still is hope, while there still is life. How many times have I told people it's not over yet? It's not over yet. And some of them even said, well, give up on me and leave me alone. I said, I'm not going to give up on you. I'm not leaving you alone. There's still hope. And as that man that day, and other people, men, women that we've worked with, and I particularly have worked with, God has come right into that burial cave, right into that grave where we may have had 1 foot in the grave. You know what I'm talking about? 1 foot in the grave, or maybe even more than 1 foot. But he came right into that burial cave, right into that graveyard, and he will touch you in your insanity. Yes, he'll touch you in your insanity, because he loves you even in your insanity, and then he'll restore you to sanity. Now, oftentimes, it's a process. It's a process. And that's the information that, a lot of the information that I had on step 2. I do have some good questions down here, but Zach's really good about hitting the questions, so I'm not gonna take his information on the questions. So he's gonna be doing the reflection, and I'm gonna pass this back over to Paul. And I'm gonna mute myself.
Thank you, Doug. Am I back up here? There. Anyway, thank you, Doug. The one big thing that you mentioned, and we always tend to mention, is there's always hope. We got hope until it's over, and it ain't over until you're gone. So anyway, it's time for Zach to come give us some reflection. Zach, come give us your viewpoint on today's stuff. Come on down.
All right, thank you. Can everybody hear me? Okay. So I always read the thing real quick here. So step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And step 2, the story in the profile with step 2, I always identify with that, with the man at the tomb, because, you know, the part where he was tormented from within and would cut himself with sharp stones, I always identify with that, because when I was younger, I self-harmed for many years of my life. And you know, there's a lot of educated people out there that have a lot of theories as to why people, you know, cut themselves or self-harm or things like that. And I'm not saying that those are wrong, but all I can speak on is why I did that. And I'm going to get to some questions here in a minute, but check my time here, so I'm aware of that. So for me, when I was younger, the pain on the inside of me was so great, and I was tormented by that so much that I needed a physical distraction. I needed the physical distraction of physical pain to distract me from the emotional stuff that was on the inside. And I had a lot of trauma in my life. I lost my dad when I was younger. He died of cancer when I was 8 years old. I've been mentally, physically, and sexually abused. And I'm not trying to, you know, I know everybody's got a story. There's a lot of people that have a story that's way worse than mine. I'm just telling you, you know, just give some reference. Alcoholic stepfather, was physically abusive, mentally abusive. I had 5 sexual abusers, and my mother was a single mom when my dad died, and she worked a lot of jobs to try to take care of me. And so I was abused and harmed when I was in the care of other people. And that isn't, you know, that isn't her fault. She was trying to take care of me. And the reality of it is that, you know, life happens to all of us. And so those are that's some of my pain. And being younger, I didn't know what to do with that pain. And it tormented me. And so, you know, I was very angry. I was angry about losing my father. I was angry about being abused. I was angry about a lot of things. I was just angry. I was very violent. I got into trouble. I was sentenced to prison as a teenager. And so, but I would cut myself. I cut myself with knives for many years. And I used to get in fights all the time. I used to pick fights and get in fights. I was always been a big kid. And I fought men as a kid, as a teenager. And so, you know, I felt insane. I acted like I was insane, and people around me would have said I was insane. And you know, and when you don't know what to do with trauma, and the people around you don't know how to help you, even though they're trying, you know, you don't know what you don't know. And you know, I spent a lot of my life angry with people who couldn't give me what they didn't have. And the point I'm trying to make with that is, you know, I spent a lot of my life angry with people, but I realized one day that it wasn't that they were choosing not to give me, they weren't withholding something from me that they had. They couldn't give me something they didn't have. And a lot of times the reason why they didn't have it is because it was never given or shown to them. And so, you know, and that can be love, that can be support, that can be, you know, fill in the blank. And so this story to me, the story has always been, you know, I see myself in that story. And so I'm gonna read a question here. So what self-destructive, we're doing internal bondage, what self-destructive behaviors have I inflicted on myself due to addiction? Listen, describe them. You know, and I may not have been using drugs and alcohol at that time, but it doesn't mean that I didn't have addictions. You know, as a teenager, I was addicted to anger, and I was addicted to pornography, and you know, I'm sure I had, you know, other addictions. I remember stealing alcohol and taking it out. I guess I did have an addiction to alcohol because I would take alcohol to school and hide it in my locker, and it wasn't so I'd be popular, because I wasn't sharing it with nobody. So you know, the thing is, you know, I mean, you know, I heal pretty well, you know, and if you were here, I could show you scars and things on my arms and stuff like that. You know, I inflicted physical pain upon myself because of the pain that was inside me. I would go pick a fight, you know, let somebody beat on me, you know, and beat on them so that I would get the distraction of not thinking about the things that had happened to me. You know, that never, you know, that pain never goes away until we do something about it. You know, you're never gonna age out of that pain. You're never gonna grow out of it. There's never gonna be enough years where it's okay. You may be able to bury it, but it's gonna push you around and make decisions for you your whole entire life. And that's one reason why we talk about, here at SNL, we talk about there's a difference between recovery and sobriety. And you know, you can get some sobriety with willpower. You know, you can get some. You know, I've had decent time with some willpower. I was always a relapse waiting to happen, because until I found recovery, you know, there was always a relapse waiting when I needed to numb out or hide from the stuff that was, chasing me down. And that's what it feels like. It feels like you're running from the things that have happened to you. It felt like I was running for the things that happened to me, and they were just always behind me, and I never could outrun them. And you always get tired. And so one thing that I do, I'm gonna try to wrap this up. One thing that I encourage people to do, and this is not permission to use, as if I could give you that, because I can't, and I never would. But I don't encourage people to try to be sober. And some people have a problem with that. I don't tell people to spend their energy on trying not to use. Okay. I encourage people to spend their energy on trying to heal from what happened to them. And that's a really good question. I meet a lot of people who, like, if you were like me, nobody ever asked me what happened to me. They asked me, what's wrong with you? Like when I was younger and I was a danger to society, because that's what they told me I was, because I scared everybody. Like the guy in the cemetery cutting himself with stones, I was scary. And they said, what's wrong with you? And why can't you just, straighten up, or stop being scary, or stop acting crazy? And so they locked me up, but it amazes me, the people that I meet, and whenever I ask them the question, and I ask the question because no one ever asked me the question. And the question I ask is what happened to you? And it's surprising to me, the people that have never been asked that question, because society just wants you to stop disrupting society. But that's not the question that God asks us. God asks us, and God knows, but God loves us, and God wants to help us. And so God asks us the question, what happened to you? He knows, but God knows we need to tell somebody. And so that's a good question to ask yourself if you're acting a fool and you don't know why. That kind of, we're going to get to that step, taking a personal inventory, but I'm not trying to jump ahead. But, if you got some stuff going on, it's not a bad question to say, hey, check in with yourself. What's going on with you? What happened to you? And so I lost my train of thought here. I'm trying to get it back. I apologize. The point I'm trying to make is I heard something. Somebody say something. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is we need healing. We need recovery. Don't put your energy into trying not to use what it is that you use to escape and disappear. Put your energy into trying to find out what happened to you. That's what I was trying to say. Find somebody you can trust to talk to. God made this situation, whether you like it or not, he made this to work with relationships, relationship with him and relationship with one another. And we need one another to get better. And you got to tell somebody else your stuff, and we don't like that. We don't like to be vulnerable with people, but we need one another to get better. And you got to recover. You got to find recovery, not just have sobriety, if you really want to stop doing whatever you do to escape. And so I encourage people to put their energy into healing from the trauma that happened to them, because if they can do that, then the need to escape and disappear, it goes away. And if it goes away, then the things that we use to do that with, they leave us. And so I'm a little scattered tonight. I'm sorry about that. That's I lost my train of thought there, but that's my point, is try to recover from the things that happened to you, so that you can find sobriety and peace and healing. And this other question here talks about isolation. I'm not going to read it because I'm over on time, I'm sure. When we isolate, we die. That is the truth. And we can't do that. And we can make all kinds of excuses to do that, but we can't do that. You isolate, you die. And I used to tell a story all the time at SNL when we're down in the meeting. I said, we build walls all the way around us to protect ourselves from everybody else. And pretty soon you realize that you've built a cell and you're stuck inside there with yourself, and we're usually our own worst enemy. We're not our best friend. And so you're inside this prison cell that you made. And so you've isolated yourself with your own worst enemy, because you are usually the worst person in the world to yourself, if you be honest. And we need to practice, we need to practice being our own best friend, and last thing I'll say is, Jordan Peterson, I quote him a lot because I think it's if we could do this, it would solve a lot of problems. If I could treat myself like somebody I'm responsible for caring for. If you had a job where you got paid and you had to give care to somebody, and you had to be good to that person and nice to that person and give them good care. You couldn't be mean to them or have a cross word, and you would, you have to give them, you had to make sure that they were taking care of themselves and that you were doing everything right. If we could do that for ourselves, how much better off would we be? And so, and we say, when we always talk about practicing things at SNL, because like Doug says, practice doesn't make perfect, but it makes permanent. And so we spend a lot of time, like Doug says, we spend a lot of time practicing the wrong things. If we want to learn new coping skills, we got to start practicing the right things. So that's what I have tonight.
Zach, go ahead and read question number 3. That's the one you're talking about, Ryan.
Get my light here. It says, I have begun to drop my insanity of living alone and being trapped in addiction. Or it says, have I begun to drop my insanity of living alone and being trapped in addiction? That's the first question. Am I ready to have Jesus visit me in my caves? That prison we build. Visit me and cleanse me. If so, write out a prayer for him here. And one good thing about that prison, that prison that we build, if you build it, you can tear it down. And I said I was done, but I had a thought. I feel like I'm supposed to share it, so I'm going to share it real quick. Sorry, Doug.
No, I want you to.
So when trauma happens to us, I picture it like, God doesn't make ugly things. And so bear with me. So in churches, they have these stained glass windows, right? And so let's say that we're all like these windows, okay? And then things happen to us, and then we're fractured. Trauma happens, and so we're fractured. So we're fractured people. We're in pieces. And so as we start putting ourselves back together, quick tip: one way that you put yourself back together is you stop denying that parts of you exist. Like, for a long time, I denied that I was sexually abused. And until I started making that part of my story, that piece didn't come back to the whole. If that makes sense? And so, you gotta tell your story, and you gotta make those pieces part of your story. But We were fractured individuals. And so, I talked about being violent. And whenever I came and got saved, I got saved when I was 17. And so I used to think of myself as a monster because I thought I was a bad person, as I'd done some bad things. And when bad things happen to you, and you've been hurt, you hurt other people, and that isn't who you are. We are not what we do. I thought that for a long time. I thought I was my actions and my choices. The truth is I'm responsible for those actions and choices, but that's not who I am. That's not who you are. Even if you believe that your whole life, I'm sorry, but that's not who you are. You did those things. I did those things, and I'm responsible for those things. And I may have to pay for those things. I may have to do time for those things, but that isn't who I am. You treat somebody like an animal, they act like an animal. And so my point is, I used to tell Doug all the time that, there was the violent part of me was like locked in a cage inside me. And I used to imagine that like there was a jail cell in my house, like we're a house, right? And I used to imagine that part of me was in there, but he was just locked up. I got saved, and God helped me lock him up, right? He tamed the beast, right? Whatever. And one day I realized that I had to make peace with that part of me, just like I had to make peace with the part of me that had been abused, that I had locked away, because if he was part of me, he would have told, and that would have messed up my world when I was younger. And so I had to lock him away, figuratively, right? Figuratively, I had to lock him away so he didn't tell nobody what happened, because if he told somebody what happened, it would mess my world up, right? I'd get taken away. And so I didn't want to get taken away, so I didn't tell anybody. And I hope that makes sense, but there's just not time to tell the whole story today. But the point I'm trying to make is part of putting these pieces back together is making peace with yourself. And so my abused self was angry with me, and I had to make peace with that, because I locked him up and silenced him, and he couldn't tell what happened. And so then I'm working on this other piece of me, this violent piece of me, trying to make peace with that, because I think I'm bad, and so I'm doing therapy, and so I'm in my house, my internal house, and I go to the prison door to make peace with this locked up, part of me. And the surprising thing is the cell door wasn't locked. And so that part of me that I was, so ashamed of or so afraid of, if he would have let, if I didn't control him, then he would just wreck my life. He could have got out the whole time, And my point is that not everything is the way that we think it is. We don't have it. We don't have it all right in our head, and we're not terrible people. We're just hurting people. And these things are scary. Trying to heal and find recovery is scary. Sometimes it feels impossible, but it isn't impossible. It doesn't take as long as we think it'll take. And it's never ever been as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I have people tell me that all the time, that I encourage to go work on themselves. They always tell me, hey, you know what? It's not as bad as I thought it was. And I'm like, you know what? That's how it was for me too. And so don't, don't sell yourself short. Don't give up. hope, and work on healing from all that stuff that happened. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you're younger, or if you're older. I don't care if you're, if you're 12 or you're 15 or you're 75. This stuff doesn't go away unless we work on it. We just get better at denying that it's there. And so I hope that made sense. And if it didn't, maybe Doug can clean it up. So thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Zach. You started talking, I noticed you kind of went right down my notes when you started listing off some of the things that you did. And I had just made some quick notes on being in bondage and the things. I had one addiction that I covered with another addiction, that I covered with another addiction, that I covered with another addiction, and finally led to isolation. And I didn't do a background study before I wrote down exactly what the lesson book was saying. And that's where most of us get caught up in our addiction, is we work until we're just totally isolated and frustrated before we'll reach out and get help. And we don't have to wait that long, because hopes they're way ahead of that. Very good, Zach. Anybody got any more comments on tonight's step and what's been said? If not, then we're going to go on with Doug time. Doug, come on down.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Zach, you hit a lot of really good targets in there. Thank you. I appreciate that. In fact, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but in a way, you said you admired the story in the Bible, but basically you had a present day similar story in a sense that was where maybe had a little more flesh and blood on it for us nowadays. So I think, and there was a lot of good things you said in there. Your statement there about what has happened to you, not instead of why can't you be the way I want you to be, tell me what's happened. Basically let me hear your pain. And that's so important. And you asked another question that I wanted to touch on to help pull it together for everybody. Are we doing all right? We don't have any echo here, do we? We okay? Good? Yes. Okay. I can turn this down a little bit more because I think I hear a little bit. We're having to kind of navigate with Paul and everything, so not a problem. Not getting in on to anybody, Paul. You're okay. We're just trying. Okay. So is the fact that when Zach was talking there, he made a comment about that he wasn't those things that he was acting like, okay, and that's not who he was, which I agree, but I wanted to help people to I want to add some extra words to that, and I've said it before, so they're not my words. I got them from somebody, but we are human beings, okay? We are a being, and I believe that we are a supernatural being, we came into existence through the breath of God. He breathed into us a part of himself. So we are a ever living being. And it's not, we're not a human doing, we're a human being. Now we get so tied in to all of our doings, and we forget that we are not a doing, we're a being. And hopefully that helps us, because it's really hard to make that distinction, because we get tied into the physical soul in the materialistic realm of things, and yes, that is some of what we have to deal with, but that doesn't change the fact that we are human beings. And if you lose that truth or forget that truth, then our life is we're going to live our life out of balance. Okay. And recovery, and Saturday Night Live and all the recovery and what church is actually designed to do is to bring us back into a spiritual balance, a life balance. Does that hopefully that helps? So I know Paul asked, but before I go into the 7 signs, which I think are really good, is there anybody that has any comments or anything that you'd like to say? Tommy or Alicia or John? No. Okay, we want to give you a shot. Okay, all right. Well, I'm glad that everybody's here. And these, as I studied this internal bondage thing, which is a form of self-sabotage, I did some research, and I looked at many different things. I found this. I think this is good, and hopefully I can communicate all this in a way that you can understand. So the 7 signs you're self-sabotaging. Okay, and in many ways, addiction is the process of self-sabotage. Would you agree with that? Yeah. And drugs and alcohol addiction and other addictions, drug and alcohol is just one of them. And basically this article was written from the perspective of drugs and alcohol, produces serious consequences, right? It produces serious, it takes your life away, mentally, emotionally, physically, socially. You lose, right? We're trying to fix something, but all we do, we end up losing. Okay. I see a hand, and I think that's Lisa. Lisa, did you have something you wanted to say? There you are.
Yes, I did.
To you.
I kind of got tickled when you said the 7 signs of that you're self-sabotaging, because for me that it's usually because I'm awake, I'm talking, I'm breathing, I'm speaking, going through all of those self-sabotaging, because it's so easy. I think we don't realize how easy it is to self-sabotage. The biggest battle we have is with ourselves very often. I heard it said one time, and I say it all the time, we wouldn't hang out with people who talk to us the way we do. And so, we very often, the conversations that we have with ourselves are some of the meanest conversations we have, and so just thinking about that from the time you wake up, your thoughts very often are sabotaging everything you do that day and tripping you up. And so we have to kind of overcome those and be careful, when you make a mistake, oh, I messed up. And it's just the little things that you don't realize that are sabotage, that are actually sabotaging yourself. So I was just going to say, because it's just so easy to self-sabotage. That's all I had.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. And so, and yes, we, and we're going to talk about this. This is, hopefully I'm able to communicate this. There's some really good thoughts in there. Hopefully I am able to communicate it. So we we want, I'm trying to find, drugs and alcohol addiction particularly produces serious consequences. They cause us to create chaos in our life and other people's lives. We isolate ourselves. We become isolated individuals. We destroy relationships. We harm families, and potentially even things even worse than that. Would you agree? And despite knowing that these consequences are going to be there, and very possibly likely that these addictions are going to continue to damage our life and our relationship and our world. We continue to do it. We continue to go down that path of self-sabotage. We just keep piling on ourselves. In active addiction, the pattern of self-sabotage is a cyclical system on repeat. We just do the same thing over and over and over and over, and we just I kind of see it more of a spiraling down type system, that we just keep doing that same thing over until finally we come to a place that we have that aha moment, where sometimes it's the hitting the bottom. This story that we referred to out of Mark 5, where Jesus showed up, and the man went to him and said he was ready. He was ready for some help, and Zach, he didn't actually talk about that transformational moment, because it's not always just a moment. Sometimes it's a process. Okay, it sometimes, just as our addictions come in our life in increments, oftentimes, I'd say most of the times, our recovery, our healing comes in increments. And sometimes it feels like big bursts, but really it's just little bitty things. And the rest of the story is, even though we make a shift, that doesn't mean we're all the way there yet. That doesn't mean that we've let go of everything. I remember helping a guy turn in a meth lab to the sheriff's department. Called the sheriff. He wanted to get rid of his meth lab. He wanted to turn it all in. And we met a sheriff, and he took all the stuff, and the sheriff was going to take care of it. He turned it all in. But the problem is, he was done. He said he was done. He said he was finished. He wanted to make a clean break, except he didn't make a total clean break. He kept some of the most expensive stuff back. You know, that is a self-sabotage. He kept some of the stuff back because it was so expensive, and he could give up all the other stuff except just that particular chemical, if you know what I mean. So we won't go into it any deeper. But the rest of the story is, if you got it, it's always there pulling you back down, right? It's an anchor. And
it's a reservation.
It's a reservation, absolutely. And that and I'm not, how can I say this? Everybody goes through that. It happens. It's a reality of life. If you haven't done it, if you're not aware that you've done it, which you probably did, but some of the things that you haven't totally let go of yet are going to come back, and because it always has, it's going to bite you in the butt. How about that? Because it happens. Because we determine to what level our freedom is going to be. I needed a breath after that one. Okay, and I haven't even got into the 7 steps yet, and I got to hurry. And so where are we at? Because we're just in the prelude of the prelude of this. However, this is a really good statement. However, beyond addiction and into the process of recovery, many people find themselves reverting back to the damage, to those dangerous and familiar thoughts and behaviors. Same thing that I said a moment ago, but using different words. People revert back to that. Why? Because man, it's so concentrated, and it wants to pick us up and pull us back, and it's powerful. And people on the outside, they don't see the forces on the inside that's trying to drag you down the drain, but they're there. And so, and we win our recovery. Now, this may sound weird, but our recovery, we win by inches. Most people think it's by feet and yards and miles, but it's by inches. It's inch by inch, right? Inch by inch. And so, and if we're not careful, we revert back because it's so ingrained in us at that moment. But we know we need to make a change. Now, the problem is, we're going to talk a little bit about mind science, just not mind science for a second. You have the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, and they both work differently. And I've talked about this on Saturday night before, but traditionally they speak about that the left hemisphere is logical and the right hemisphere is more artsy emotion, and it sees the right side sees the big picture and it fills in the details. The left side it sees the small details and it expands, and it's the same picture, but it's made in different ways, and you view it in different ways and from different aspects. And sometimes we're operating in the logical left side, and sometimes we're operating in the emotional, artsy, big picture side of a right brain, and sometimes we're even at war ourselves in our own head, right? That's some of our insanity, but we're all insane to some degree. It's just degrees. Yeah, I'm looking at you, and because we all have mental health issues. Even you, yes, you, Tommy. And because we all do, it's just degrees. It's just degrees. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to come together because when we get our heart back in alignment and we get our brain starting to line up and come into a balance, remember I said balanced life, then we're able to have, we have more sanity, we have more peace, we have more healthy mental health. Okay. Now, there is no perfection, but we're heading in the right direction. We're human beings, not human doings. Okay. Did you want to say something, Tommy? I saw your lips moving.
Well, this whole everything is like, I just had like a flash of like from the last 20 years, 30 years of my life, hearing everybody talk, and seeing where I've come from, I catch myself self-sabotaging still to this day, but I catch myself. I try to catch myself quicker before I go backwards. That's all.
That's great, Tommy. That's great. Because that's what it is. That's what it's about. Catching yourself quicker. Okay. Now, some people get upset because I have to catch myself. But if you don't catch yourself, then you're going to be, that flood is just going to push you on down. Right? So good deal. And Alicia, you're leaning into it like you got something you'd like to say. Come on down. Anything, Alicia?
They just said are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Everything that Zach said I wrote it all down, like how I could relate with it, and like, the anger, the pain, the violence, the abuse, the fighting, committing crimes, stealing, not being in reality, being unreality, overeating, drugs, alcohol, medication, cigarettes, sex, and then eventually isolating because you want to die from all this crap. And then you were saying that there's still hope. Well, there is, thank God. And you got to ask for help. You gotta, in order to heal. And I started to heal whenever I said it 3 times actually, and I received a healing, was that I had forgiven myself for the abuse that I'd heaped on myself, the abuse that others heaped on me, and the abuse that I had heaped on others. And then I started receiving a healing in my soul because my soul was totally wounded from everything that happened to me. And I didn't even know it. Somebody else had to tell me that's what happened, that the devil had basically had his hooks in me. So the inner turmoil was all the demonic forces and the supernatural, and me being a being, they liked me, and then I was being tormented, and I didn't ever cut myself, but I mutilated myself. I even found myself like wanting to scratch my face off, and and you were talking about, I think you said peace. There was no, I asked for God for peace for years. There was no room for any peace. I had to start getting rid of this junk and realizing, like Zach said, what the hell was going on. And for me to receive anything, I had to get it out of there. And all this junk in my heart was a bunch of crap. And like you were talking about the 7, your things that you were going to read or that you did read, that to me, that struck me as like the 7 deadly sins: the lust, the pride, the envy, the greed, the gluttony, which is something that I've been asking God to heal me from lately, because I've been eating like I'm going to the electric chair last meal, and I'm tired. Every time I get off drugs or get off alcohol, all this stuff I started healing from. Well, now I'm at a point where I'm at the point of gluttony, and I don't want it anymore, and so I made it a conscious effort to pray to God and to ask him to take that from me, because I could never do it on my own. So I have like a wellness planner that I started today, and I started filling it out, and it even has stickers in it, things that I can do and goals. Not only do I have goals anymore, but I have dreams. I started dreaming again because things are getting so good. And God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind, self-discipline, well-balanced thinking. Amen. And I can just relate. Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Really good stuff. Anybody else before I wade back into this? Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. All right. I was just looking before I looked at my notes, and let's see if I can find where I was. We revert back. Okay. All right. And so we come, the next topic that I'm going to touch on is, and I haven't got to the 7 signs yet. Yes, I'm going to get there. I went through it today, and it took me 20 minutes to get through all this. So hopefully, I'll see what I can do. Anyway, and this is the comfort of destruction. Why is it that so many people on the path to recovery find themselves reverting back to the old ways? Why is it? Why do we do that? Did you want to say something, Paul?
Yeah. The reason that we tend to go back is because it's comfortable. It's kind of like a baby in his dirty diaper. It's warm and it's his and it's what he's used to. And he just as soon sit in it as he would to have changed. And that's kind of how we are. When it starts to change, it's a feeling we never felt before. And even though it's good, it's not comfortable. And we've usually done so much bad stuff in our lives, we don't feel like we deserve to be feeling good and comfortable. And so we decide we got to punish ourselves and go back into whatever it was that we did, because that's what we're used to.
Good, Paul. I appreciate that. That's so true. Some of the things that I've got listed down here as a response to that was, it is comfortable, and the analogy of the poopy diaper, it's
Warm in his sink, but it's fine.
yeah, well, it's and so it's comfortable, it's familiar. Okay, let me hit the next one before I go to that. It's familiar, and I've lost my it's what we know. Basically what you said, just what we know. And I'm going to go to Alicia, and I'm going to mute myself.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, like he just brought up the fact that about the diaper and how it's warm and comfortable. Like I read this book called The Final Quest. I can't remember, but there's like 3 of them. And it says that when a spirit, has attached itself to us, that it actually defecates and urinates on us. And I don't know, I just found that kind of funny. Like, I don't know, because I had plenty of spirits on me. How I could never get set free from that because it was comfortable and I was sitting in my own filth and I couldn't see that. But it was supernatural, but it wasn't the right kind of supernatural that I needed to get free.
All right. I
don't know, that may be going too far, but like,
well, I don't.
I mean,
I don't have any comments about that specific thing.
okay.
I just wanted to say that wherever you are in your house right now, you have really good service. So that's a good spot for you to be in to talk. So I just wanted to say that. So
He's talking to you, Alicia, except I think she's frozen.
I'm demonic spirits.
Okay, Tommy, go for it.
Well, talking about spirits and stuff attaching to us, like I noticed that, like I get caught up in stuff, and I wonder sometimes, because I was thinking about how you said our subconscious mind, how it works and stuff, and I was wondering, like, if I'm so programmed, even in my recovery, and the longer I stay away from that other stuff, that how much of that type of thinking carries over into my having a normal life and activities and ways about myself that could trigger me to go backwards.
And I was trying to think about what you said, but what's your specific question?
I don't have one. I really don't.
Okay, well.
Hey, Doug.
Yes.
I think what he's talking about is, and Tommy, we talk about something here at the meeting called catch it, check it, change it. So when we have those old thought processes, because those go with us even when we're sober and we're in the process of recovery, and they can stay with you a lifetime. You have to change your thinking if you want to change your behavior. So you got to practice what works. And so when you catch those old thoughts coming in, you have to catch it, you check it, and that means you got to check it against reality, check it against your goals, check it against scripture, whatever it is for you. But you catch it, you check it, and then you change that thought, and you actively, change that thought. And sometimes that means you have to actually say it out loud, changing that thought Sometimes it's changing a behavior. Sometimes it's changing an action. But it's just about catching it, checking it, and then changing it. And so that's the tool that we use to help you stop doing those things. So I hope that kind of answers the question you were
Yeah.
kind of not asking, but asking.
Yeah. So that's like the 5 minute, 5 day, 5 second, the 5-5-5 rule thing.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, it makes sense. I got it.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're
Good
welcome.
deal. Alicia, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. For me, like she said, maybe for different everybody, I never heard it said like that, catch it, check it, and change it. To me, somebody finally told me like a remedy for all that crap. And I use scripture. I take captive every thought and bring it to the obedience of Christ Jesus. And we demolish and pull down every stronghold, because we have these strongholds set up in our mind that, I realized that, whenever I started receiving things from God, like, the negative to go, and I had to change my thought pattern, and I had to get rid of certain things, taking it captive. Just saying that. Sometimes I say it out loud, sometimes I say it in my head. And that's what I've started my life. And it works because the word of God is living in its power, and it's alive and it does stuff, and it takes care of those thoughts and feelings and harmful whatever, and it's worked for me. And I'm like, why didn't somebody tell me this before? I was kind of mad about it, but I suppose that's where I had to be, for, I didn't know that I had to give God my thoughts. I didn't know I had to give him my attitudes and let him replace those things with, not just his love, but like, or his kindness, or, receiving his mercy, but like, it was beneficial. It started making sense,
That's good. And Tommy was the question that he had, or at least that I thought that you were asking, which you clarified it a little bit later, and you came back to it, and which I believe to be so. And this is a at least I see it as a challenging subject, because um, because um, because of those beliefs, like you were talking about earlier, Tommy, and like you were talking about both Lisa and Alicia, that we have certain beliefs, and neuroscience says that 95% of all of our choices are made unconsciously, and that our unconsciousness is pushing us around, whether we're conscious of it or not. And so but we can't even hear sometimes the truth because of our own unconscious thoughts that is demanding access. Okay. And one of the topics that you touched on there a moment ago, Alicia, was about this spiritual influence. And I'm going to use some of Tommy's words and some of your last words there is, and I've done a lot of research and study, because some people like to blame everything on supernatural forces. Okay. And I'm not saying that there aren't forces, but just like this man, he was out of Mark 5. He was able to make a shift when he finally was able to let go of whatever that self-sabotaging thoughts that he had against himself. He was in such a rage. He was angry at himself and the whole world. And Zach told the same story, but everybody on this earth has some of that, and thoughts have power, and even out of 2 Timothy, and you quoted it a while ago, I think, Alicia, that he's not given us a spirit of fear, but a power and a love and a soundness of mind. And we sometimes then we say that fear is a spirit. Well, it's referred to as a spirit, but fear is a thought that has these forces that can either that manage us or push us around, where God is on the in the aspect of love. He has given us power and a love and a sound mind for us to grab a hold of. And if we go into insanity, and that's what we're talking about here tonight, and if we go into insanity, then we're giving ourselves over to all that fear and pain and anger, and we blame everything and everybody, and then we blame ourselves. We blame everything. We blame God. We blame why was I even born? We just tear ourselves apart, and oftentimes we open ourselves up and say, well, it's not what I think. It's outside forces making me do this. Well, somebody gave permission to the outside forces to have an effect on us, and actually we are the contributor to that. And as Zach said, we thought we were in prison, but the door's not locked because we put ourselves in there, and we have the key, but we probably didn't even lock it. Okay, and so there is hope. And you said you were mad because they didn't tell you. Hey, they told you, you didn't hear it, but they told you enough to where you finally did hear it. Okay, because I know I'm one of them that told you. Okay. But that's okay, because that's the way. It's increments. Okay, and we get so wound up in our own craziness, and we're driven by those unconscious beliefs that we have, that were embedded from early in our life, and was reinforced and reinforced. And the only way to do is to be able to finally come to the place where you say, wait a minute, this is not true. I can turn this around. It's going to be hard as hell, but I can do it piece by piece. And it's by inches, not by miles, like I said a while ago. And it may be half inches, but that's progress no matter what. Yes, Alicia.
Like you were talking about, okay, well, like for me, like after the spiritual forces of evil were off me, then I could deal with myself. And after that happened, I was literally like, where do I go now? What do I do? And, like you were talking about how we're messed up in our head and the thoughts, and
You froze up on us. Sorry. You were trying to come back.
oh, am I there?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay. Like I was judgmental, critical, I was skeptical, I blame shifted, I finger pointed. And I mean, like that was all the things that, that I had to work on. And then like what I had just overcome in the last 6 months was fear, worry, and doubt. And I didn't even realize what was wrong with me. I knew I was scared as hell, but like I didn't know. My head was so messed up, it just wouldn't stop. And like I was constantly worrying. I was in like turmoil in my head.
you know, and I realized that God could be the center of that all, you know, and it was a process of that, but it does take time, you know, but I didn't realize what the process was. And the Lord told me when I was praying the other day, he said, Alicia, he goes, it's sanctification, it's justification, and it's purification. And I was like, oh, that means until I die, you know, that this is going to go on. So anyways, I surrender.
That's good. And I think the secret here is going ahead and taking personal responsibility for our life. And even though we may not be able to hit the target, we decided, instead of being forced or pushed around, that we're going to lean into what we know is the healthy, right direction. Even though I'm not able to do it, that's the direction I choose to go instead of being picked up. And as we do that, we do gain momentum. We get freer. We break loose. Just like exercise, we get stronger. And it's little by little. Zach wanted to say something.
So I have a quick thought, but I wanted to say I'm gonna have to jump off in 10 minutes to go pick up Catherine from work, and I know that we kind of got off on a thing. I know it's not bad or anything, but I think that you should at least read your seven things, Doug. I know we're going long, but it's a good night, and I think you should at least read them. I just want to say that now because I'm probably gonna have to jump off here before you get to it. My thought was, and I'm not at all trying to disagree with anybody else that has talked tonight, but I'm just speaking for me and my stuff and the things that I shared earlier. You know, for me, you know, I did everything you're saying, Doug. I blamed other people, and you know, and I blamed outside forces, you know. And when I first became a Christian, you know, I got around some people that you know told me that the devil made me do it, and then and again, I'm not saying anything about anybody else because your story is your story. I'm just talking about mine. But you know, after some time, I realized one day that you know that I was doing so much to destroy my own life and to drive my own self crazy that the devil didn't have to do anything to me, you know. And you know, I think people that told me that I think they meant well, but that was very dangerous for me because it hindered me and it kept me in a really bad place for a long time because it kept me from taking responsibility because I was trying to blame something else that I could not control, and then I wasn't responsible. And if I wasn't
powerless, kept me
powerless. And if I was powerless to change it, then I couldn't control it, and it wasn't me. Then I couldn't do anything about it. And then one day I realized, well, and I was trying to be spiritual and trying to do all that church stuff, and I'm not saying church stuff is bad, okay, but there was a time in my life that I was really religious, you know, and I was, you know, naming it and claiming it and rebuking everything under the sun, you know, and just because you rebuke it, and I'm just talking about me, and you just dive headlong back into that sin, that don't mean nothing. You can say whatever you want to say, you know, but if you're not trying to do anything different, you know, and you know, it's just that we have to be careful what we tell people, because I mean, that kept me in bondage that we're talking about, you know, that kept me suffering for a very, very long time. And until the day I realized, you know, the devil didn't do nothing to me. I did all this hell to myself. And, you know, and I know that bad things happen to me. But what happens to us is that these people come along in our life and they harm us. And then we pick up and we continue to harm ourselves with the event. You know, and like we talk about at SNL, it's not what happened to us, it's how we feel about it. It's the message it gives us. You know, it's you know, the things that are said to us as children, and then we grow up and then we keep saying it. Like our parents call us ugly, and then our parents are gone and we keep calling ourselves ugly for the next 30 years. You know, it's, and that you know, that's just an example. But the point is, you know, when we take responsibility, we have all the power to change everything. And that is amazing. You know, and I think the devil gets a lot of blame. And I'm not saying that he ain't doing nothing, and I'm not saying the word isn't true. I'm just saying that I think a lot of times when we don't know what to do, we blame it on the devil, because you know, we don't know what to do, and so we can do that, you know. And but if we're not careful, that prolongs our suffering, you know. And I've seen the real thing in church growing up. You know, after I got saved, I've seen the real thing, and I know that it exists, you know. But you know, we just have to be careful to not, you know, that's a form of self-sabotage, you know, not being able to take responsibility for the things that have happened to us and prolonging our suffering. And sometimes good Christian people teach us that, because that's where they are and that's what they believe, and you know, and they're suffering. So I hope that makes sense. And you know, if I got to jump off here, I just want to tell everybody I love them. I'm glad they were here tonight. And I know that we kind of got off in this, not that this is bad, but I think you should still read your seven things. That's my encouragement.
Thank you, Zach. Well, here are I'm going to give the topics, and then I'm going to see where we're at, and then I may go back and talk about them. The number one thing, the number one sign is stress. The second sign is negative thinking. And by the way, I think negative thinking is one of the biggest problems, and we've been talking about that tonight. Negative thinking. And negative thinking, and we obsess and continue to ruminate on the lies. I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but no, number three is isolation, which we've touched on isolation earlier. How it's a sign. If you have these signs, and some of them will maybe trouble you more than others, you can recognize them. Number four is self-pity. Man, that, you know, self-pity, and to a degree, we were talking about self-pity a while ago by blaming it on to outside forces or whatever, you know, and say, whoa, woe was me, you know, I can't do anything because X, Y, X, Y, X, Y. All right. Again, I said I wasn't going to comment. Number five, bottled up emotions. Okay. We suppress, bottle up, hold in until we blow up. And when we blow up, then the next thing we do is then we try to pick everything up and squeeze it back into the bottle. Yes. And if we get trapped in that bottling up emotions, then we never, ever get healed. Okay. And we need to recognize what's going on. We got to recognize it so that we can deal with it. Go back to what Lisa said, catch it, check it. Then we have to work on changing it. Okay. All right. Number six, guilt, shame and guilt. Though that is a signal of relapse coming if we're not careful, because we're sabotaging ourselves. Okay. Number seven, the last one, and that is refusing help or denial. Okay. You know, I'm all right. I'm okay. I don't need nothing. I'm good. We withdraw. We push back. We force people out of our life. We force God out of our life. We we blame everybody else for our situation, but we have to find some people that we're comfortable with, or person that we're comfortable with, because we do not heal alone. Okay, that we have to find somebody, a friend, a family member, a mentor, a sponsor, a pastor, somebody to help us, because we can't see, we can't always recognize all of our patterns. Okay, because we've lived with it so long, we think that's the way that it is, right? And so we need some help. We can't heal alone. And man, that's what we all want to do, is be alone. And when we are alone, that's when we are sickest, because we're stuck with ourselves. Right? How would you like to live with you?
We do, that's why we're in
Oh, okay. It's 8:39. Those are the 7 things. Stress, of course, there's good stress, bad stress, and we need to understand that. But the first step is that we need to try to restore ourselves to a healthy balance and find that stress. We need to stop sabotaging ourselves and try to have some, because when we go into recovery, this is very important here. When we go into recovery, we're trying to bring normality back into our life. And when we do that, we are now inducing more stress into our life, even though that's where we want to go and that's where we need to go, but we're stressing ourselves. And when we do that to ourselves, we got to be careful, because we're trying to begin to juggle all these new things. They're not new things, they're old things, the things we want, things that we've thrown away, whether it's job, whether it's family, whether it's finances, life, okay? Because we have condensed ourselves down to a little bit of nothing, and it's either I choose to live or I choose to die. Dying is going to zero. Living is going ahead and starting to live again. And it is stressful, okay? And but there's good stress and there's bad stress. And even though we're coming back into it, we have to learn how to do it. We have to balance it in such a way that we don't blow ourselves up or sabotage ourselves. The negative thinking was number 2. Just, we inflict ourselves, we trigger ourselves with negative thoughts, and we do it to ourselves. We'll blame others, but the biggest person we beat up on is ourselves. And again, I talked about this 2 halves of our mind, and we have different aspects and different hemispheres, and we just tear ourselves up. And as Zach said earlier, if we spoke to our we would not let anybody speak to us the way we speak to ourselves, is probably a better way of saying that. And if and we know that if we're speaking to somebody that's important and valuable to us, that we can't say things to them that we tear ourselves up about. And we need to stop it. We know that's wrong. So we need to begin to do what we know is healthy or correct. And so isolation is that we push ourselves and we get caught in that downward spiral. Self-pity, it's convoluted, and I've already pretty much talked about that, how it's so complex. We have all these different things on both sides of our brain, and they're all pounding on us. But we can begin again. We can heal. Sometimes it's slowing down and planting our feet and coming to a place and finding maybe just one point of truth that we can grab a hold of, that we know that's true, not what other people's told us true, that we know this is true. And then we're able to begin at that place and begin to restore. Dealing with self-pity, this bottled up emotions, there is no quick fix. There's no quick fix. It's little by little, piece by piece. And we have all this stuff that we drug around with us all of our life, the hurts, the pains, the fears, the false beliefs, the stories, the screaming in our head. Okay, I remember particularly a young lady from here at SNL talked about that she just was so tormented, she would just scream. The guilt and the shame. And I've already talked about the denial of refusing help. So I think we'll just, I didn't cover all the information, but I think we covered a lot. So, but I do have a question here is, which one of these 7s did you identify with most? Or maybe it'd be a combination. And if you see some of these things where you're sabotaging yourself out of these 7, you need to look at that. You need to take a look at it, because when you become aware and you accept that's what you're doing to yourself, that you are sabotaging yourself, then you're ready, you're positioned to begin to make a change. But first you have to be aware. Next, you have to accept it. You don't have to like it, but you have to accept it. And then you have to work on finding a solution to work your way through it. That's changing directions, right? Even though you're maybe still going away, maybe you're not going away as quickly, or maybe, maybe you're starting to make that shift. You're starting to turn around. It takes some time. And the last statement is, God can come into your burial cave, into your sickness, into your pit. He can come in to you, and he can touch you in your insanity, in our craziness, and he can restore us to sanity. Yes. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and give you his peace. He wants you to have that peace. We have to be willing to take, even if we can just grab a little bit of it. A little's better than none. Just go ahead and take it. And again, always make healthy choices. Amen. Amen. I'm going to send this back over to Paul, and he's going to close this out. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Man, we had some great conversation tonight, and I really appreciate everybody that talked and put in. It was quite a good night. I'm at a point in life, I think I'm doing pretty good, and I learned a lot. And this is a good place to be. It's a good place to learn. Got tools, got people that love you. We love you. Want you to have a great week. Come and see us again next week.